Okay, I'm back to show you guys how we're going to solder a post onto a plate, and that will come in handy for both rivets and also ear wires and posts, any type of linkage system that's on there. I'm going to be challenging myself, and I'm going to make on this square of copper, I'm going to solder also the tube on and these two posts so that I can show you that you can do multiple solderings on the same piece. And if you're not fighting gravity, we can get away with using medium solder for this. So when it comes to the post, when you use the diagonal cutter and you cut it, it crimps it and it doesn't give you a flat spot. So I'm going to take my flat file and I'm going to file the end flat. And that gives me good surface contact. And it also gives me clean metal for the solder to bond to. So I think I've done that on both of these. If you struggle with holding on to small pieces, there are other tools that I can help you with. The other thing about the tube, when we cut them, we went in and we did some filing to make them flat, but we also then had it clean. So I've got that, and I need to just use some Scotch-Brite on this. If you use the Scotch-Brite on your soldering board, you're going to have little flecks of fire happening from that. So I really do all my cleaning on the bench, and I don't do any of that over here. So here I am. I'm going to solder this onto that. What I like to do is think of this tube, cut it in half and unroll it, and in looking at it, it's probably a little more than a quarter amount of metal that it has to the sheet. And brass doesn't conduct heat as well. And then the other thing I'm checking for is how thick is the wall of the tubing compared to the sheet. So that I'm going back to those three things again, is the size, materials, and then our setup. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to get away with soldering this right like that without putting it up on the tripod. And the reason for that is that I can do all the heating here. If this were in the middle, or if my piece was this size, I probably would have to do it up on a tripod. So I'm going to take and I'm going to flex this whole thing, because I'm going to put some posts on there. I'm going to flex my tube. I'm going to set my tube down, and then I'm going to take my solder chips, and I'm going to take two solder chips. I'm going to lift them up, and inside the little ring there on that bubble, I'm going to put my solder on. So my solder isn't underneath the tube, it's inside. And then design wise, I want it over a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to prepare myself for soldering. I am, if I can find my interlocking tweezers.
Oh, they're holding on to the
Oh yeah, thank you. So I'm going to take the interlocking tweezers, and I'm going to use those to solder the posts down. So I like to do that. I like to also be sitting down when I do this, because I want to rest my hand. If I'm up here, I'm going to shake so I can then solder this down. So I'm going to prep all of this. So I'm going to put some flux on that. I'm going to put some flux on the other one. I've got my solder chips ready to go right here, and I'm going to show you two different ways with the posts, but for right now I want to start by just getting the tube soldered down without using the tripod.
Let's see if I can get that on film.
What on the film?
Inside the tube.
Oh yeah, okay, can you get it in there?
I think so.
Okay. So getting that nice neutral flame. And I'm going to come down perpendicular, and I'm going to work around the outside, because I've got to get the copper hotter. And you can see those solder chips bouncing around inside. But because of capillary action, I know that once the solder flows, it's going to migrate to where the two pieces of metal are touching. So the flux has gone clear on the bottom as well as the top. I'm going to just continue heating around it. I keep the torch moving so I don't melt something, but I think the solder just flowed. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of solder, set it there. I'm going to take another piece of solder, I think, and set it here. And I'm going to take my post that has flux on it, and I'm going to just heat up the end a little bit. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to ball up the solder, and then I'm going to heat my wire, and did you see the solder just flowed right onto it? So now I'm going to come over and I'm going to start heating. And if I had to put this in a specific place, I would pickle this and everything, but I'm going to put it right where it's clean. And I'm going to reheat this. My hand is resting very stable. And just as the metal gets up to temperature, I'm going to touch down and heat. And I'm going to pull the flame away. And I'm going to count to 10. And then let go. And I think I learned how to do this by working for somebody. And after I did about 20 posts, I got good at it. So heat the post. Solder goes where it's hottest. Get your solder chip balled up. Get it stuck. This time it's just stuck on the end. It really isn't soldered on there yet, which is kind of cool. And the closest place I can put this is probably right here. So I'm going to be able to set it down right there. So practicing a few times on this will really make you a much better person soldering. Hold it till it freezes, and then voila. So I found by putting the solder on the end of the wire, I get a much better clean joint. Whereas if you put the solder down, it's going to spread, and then you have cleanup on it. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to throw them into the water, and then I want to show you the thing that a lot of people don't do is that they forget to test their solder joint. So after we've soldered this is really soft. So what you want to do is you want to take a pair of flat nose pliers, grab onto the very end of it, and pull and twist. And in doing that, you're work hardening the post so it doesn't bend when you put your earring on, and you're checking for how well your solder joint is. If I clamp all the way down here, I'm not going to be work hardening anything above the pliers. So you want to just grab onto the very end and pull and twist. And I don't like getting comebacks, so I would rather have this post fall off now than before I send it to a customer. Okay.